Most seven-figure agencies will never hit eight figures, and it has nothing to do with leads, offers, or even churn. I've helped countless agencies scale past 10 million in annual revenue, and I've met hundreds of agency owners that have met or exceeded that eight-figure run rate. And there is one common factor that every single one of them have. This one thing separates the agencies that hit eight figures and those that will never actualize their dreams. And it's not more clients. It's not another service line, it's standards. These are the non-negotiables that drive every action, every hire, and every single deliverable in your business. In this video, I'm gonna be showing you how you can systematically raise your standards so you can scale from 7 to 8 figures and not worry if your team members are able to execute your vision, execute your objectives, and not make you worried that even though you're no longer in the day-to-day, the standards won't be met. Now, for those of you that don't know me, my name's Jordan Ross. I'm the founder of 8-Figure Agency. We're a growth consultancy where we help agency owners hit 8 figures, but primarily build a business that can work without them. And when you could have a business that works without you, and you are not required to work in the day-to-day operation, but your standards never drop. Your standards are always very high. You can go out and do high leverage activities. You can go recruit great talent. You can grow, build a brand. You could go enjoy your life. Everything as it relates to 8 figures is boiled down to this one concept. And this has kept coming up for me over the last few weeks where I've interviewed a few 8-figure founders. I've been talking to a lot of founders in the $1 to $5 million range, and the disparity is so clear. So I'm gonna be breaking this down for you. And if you haven't been following my channel, this is a part 2 video of this concept you see on the screen, benchmarking and accountability. I'm just gonna go a little bit deeper. And for those of you that are just seeing this for the first time, I'm gonna be kind of doing a quick recap first. So standards, this is the number one thing that you need. And if you really think about it, it's really simple. If you are not needed, but your level of execution, your vision, your talent, everything that you do is able to sustain, you can scale with confidence. In order to do this, it's pretty straightforward. There's really only 4 steps you need to follow. And the first one is an operations plan. The operations plan is something I got from my time at Amazon. Now, what the operations plan is an output that comes from a quarterly meeting where the executive team of a business, or if you're running a 9-figure business, it'd be the equivalent of a senior team for a business unit. They meet and they go over the upcoming quarter. So this is quarterly planning. And what they do is they will cover every single major output, the target that we want to see per week. This is that operations plan. And what this allows us to do, it says if we want to hit our goals, what are the very specific targets we need to hit per every metric? And in this example, I have them here from like marketing to sales to capacity, fulfillment, lifetime value, churn, revenue. These numbers, these metrics, I've color coded them, and you could pause and look at these a little bit more closely. Each department owns a different metric, and each metric has sub-metrics or inputs. And the difference of sub-metrics or inputs, outputs or metrics are goals. This is saying this is where we want to be. Inputs are the things we need to do to get there. So once you have your operations plan, your 12-week forecast and target, you can start to actually sustain standards, because what this is our North Star. This is your North Star. This is your thing that says, hey, if my team hits these things, I can feel good about not looking at everything. But that's pretty hard. So once you actually get your operations plan, you need to then build your WBR, your weekly business review, so your leaders can make sure they are on track. So I just made a simple example. I took the marketing data for calls booked, and I broke it down into how our funnel actually works, right? In a weekly business review, this would either happen on a Monday or a Friday. Friday and reviewing the prior week, or Monday reviewing the prior week and talking about the upcoming week. Every leader in each department is going to have a spreadsheet or a table, some form of database. This could be in Google Sheets, Notion, ClickUp, Airtable. It really doesn't matter where it's held. And it's going to cover the prior weeks of the current operations plan. So like the current quarter, or like maybe if you're coming out of prior quarter and into a new quarter, you might have like the prior 2 or 4 weeks. And it's going to cover the major areas. So in my funnel, we have lead magnets. We drive advertising dollars to lead magnets. We spend money, people opt into a lead magnet. So if you want to look at mine, go to the link below. And sometimes that leads to calls booked. When someone opts into a lead magnet, they automatically get routed to my newsletter. They automatically get retargeted on my YouTube channel. Maybe you're watching this because you've been retargeted. And ultimately, I have a lot more things, but to simplify it, this in sum leads to a total amount of people opting into my lead magnets, a total amount of people being retargeted in the middle of the funnel, and a total amount of calls booked that happen every single week. Now, going to this operations plan, in this made up business, the head of marketing is responsible for a certain amount of calls being booked every week and a certain amount of those calls being qualified. In order to do that, they need to have very specific metrics on their inputs. Their inputs are the amount of dollars they're spending on ads, the amount of leads that are opting into those ads, the amount of people reading their newsletter and actually clicking their newsletter, their YouTube channel, and how many subscribers they're getting. And it all needs to be cohesive. This is one of the major 13 systems that I talk about, which talks about marketing, positioning, lead generation. What happened in this meeting, the agenda is really straightforward. Once you actually have your KPIs, you need to come into the meeting to really just go over number one, progress. You're going to talk about the prior week progress, if there's any lessons and wins. Adjustments. So Alex Hormozi talks about his 3 things: more, better, new. The better process is when you're looking at a dashboard and a weekly business review as an executive team, you're saying, what are the things we need to change to do better? When you identify those corrections, you're creating very specific actions. Adjustments might be, we're having too high of a cost per lead. We need to build a new ad and have some new creative for the lead, right? So this is really just looking at the data and having the data tell us we're on track or not. If we're off track, what are the ideas that we need to bring up or the things that we need to change or split test to actually get to that goal, right? And the goal is set here. The goal is set in the operations plan. If our target goals are off and our sub-target goals are also off, we just need to come up with ideas. That's all it is. And if you're able to track this and you have the meetings that ground that formal discussion, it usually happens. So it's actually a pretty simple thing that you need to do. All you need to do is define the metrics on a quarterly basis, define the metrics on a departmental basis, and then set the meetings in place with a really simple agenda that you could see here. The agenda is really straightforward and you hit it. I really do believe it's that simple, barring you have the right talent. Now, kind of going back to what I had showed you in my last video or one of my prior videos, you have your operations plan, you have your weekly business review for executives, and then you have your operations meetings. Now, your operations meetings, this is where you have your operations manager. So now you're no longer at the executive level, you're at the operations manager level, and you're at the individual contributor level. This is where they're coming in and they're reviewing their metrics and their clients and their initiatives. So the agenda of this meeting, you're going to cover announcements. So a lot of times standards are not being met because culture is just a byproduct of what people say, think, and do. A lot of times you need to announce and remind people of certain standards and certain things to think about. At Amazon, we had spacers. So we had 4 or 5 tips or 4 or 5 announcements that would come from the operations manager that would get funneled down from the weekly business review from the senior leaders to the operations manager. And they would be telling us, I had been an area manager, operations manager my time at Amazon. So when I was an area manager, the operations manager would come in and they were telling us, I'd had teams of 20 all the way up to 100 plus. They told me what I need to funnel down to my team. So in your agency, right, you might have operations manager. The operations managers, they need to set that cadence and that standard and that information gets top down funneled. So when we dive in to this meeting, we're going over the performance dashboards. So I shared this in my last video, but in this meeting, your team members, your account managers or account strategists are going to be going over their book of business. And they're same thing. They're covering where they hit, where they missed. If they missed, they're going to explain why. And one thing that I didn't show in this meeting, so I wanted to go deeper to give you guys very concrete templates to work off of, was a summary. So at Amazon, we call this a bridge. If you are supposed to be here and you're here, you're not at your target, you need a bridge. You need to explain why. So what your individual contributors will need to do, if they come into a meeting and they are missing on their targets, they need to come in prepared with a game plan. And they need to explain why performance is down, what their game plan is, and progress from prior weeks if applicable. And so you could even pause or read through this, but this is accountability. That's all it is. Your individual contributors or your account strategists are going to come in and they are held accountable because it's visible. It's easy to see. The meeting is there to hold them accountable and they know they need to come in with that game plan. And to kind of go back to this 4-point plan I have, your operations plan your weekly business review and your operations meetings is almost everything you need, right? Because your team members know they're going to have to report out to their operations manager, and they're going to have to come in with specific actions. If they don't, they're going to look like an idiot. And that feeling of idiocracy, that feeling of inadequacy is just literally going to drive performance. It is that simple, because that's how humans work. So we cover all of this. And by the way, the timelines are a little off here because this is for an hour meeting. This should be a 30-minute meeting for most companies. So once this is done, everything in the business gets finalized in a standard work checklist. So in order for there to be visibility for you, the founder, if you're the founder, you have a team across different departments, across different countries. If you're a team that has like offices and satellite offices, you're going to need to make sure that there are reports sent out. So some of these reports, or a lot of these reports from a data perspective, could be automated, but you want your team members to have to manually send things. So the way I would recommend it is, if you have a media buying team, you want every media buyer to send their section of the standard work checklist up into their operations manager. Every individual team member should be sending their operations manager their end-of-day checklist. The operations manager should be sending out a checklist for their department, depending on the size of your agency. So you could have this end-of-day checklist that is sent out that covers the entire team, and it's sent out to senior leadership. Now, this encapsulates the whole system. This encapsulates building your operations plan and setting your benchmarks. It breaks down how to turn your operations plan into departmental plans and how you could break those down into inputs. Inputs, remember, are the things that you can track. That gets broken down into dashboards that you need to track results for your team and their relevant results. Those things need to be covered in the daily checklist and the end of week checklist, or the daily and end of week reporting, which is submitted through a checklist. And when things are being missed, your team members need to review why and what the plan is to course correct. If you do all this, you can sustain standards, you can grow, and you could start to focus on things that actually grow your business. Now, a lot of founders, though, struggle just putting these dashboards together because they look at these things, they get very overwhelmed. And this is the benefit of having an advisor or consultant sit across the table from you and extrapolate that information. And that's exactly what we do at 8-Figure Agency. We can help you formulate all these dashboards, formulate all these data points and KPIs, and put them in to these reports so you can actually start to grow your business. If you need help with that, go to 8figureagency.co. Or if you want to figure out what these data points look like for every single department, click the link below and you could get access to my 13 systems, where we will break down what good and bad look like for every system and every department in your agency. If this video has added value, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, where every week I'll be showing up to help you build a business that works without you. And if you want to watch a video that covers all 13 systems that your business needs to hit 8 figures, click this link right here. Thank you.